Why Swedish children celebrate Easter by dressing up as witches. Each year in Sweden and Finland, young children continues a centuries-old tradition, marking the night that witches celebrated Sabbath with the devil before Jesus' resurrection. As children in Varmland, Sweden, Fredrik Scott and his sister used to dress up as witches and travel from door to door to give letters filled with candy to their neighbors and friends. But the occasion wasn't Halloween, it was Easter Eve. Unlike the bunnies and egg baskets that many people associate with Easter, each year in Sweden and Finland, young children continue a centuries-old tradition, marking the night that witches celebrated Sabbath with the devil before Jesus' resurrection. Dressed as Easter witches and Easter trolls, they go door to door wishing families glad Pasch. The tradition varies slightly by region. While some communities celebrate on Easter Eve, others dressed up on Maundy Thursday. Some children sing in exchange for candy, while others give their neighbors letters filled with candy. Scott, now a docent in Nordic folklore at the Institute for Language and Folklore in Gothenburg, has spent years studying the Swedish mumming tradition, which sheds light on the link between witchcraft and Easter, as well as how beliefs about witches changed over time in Sweden. The origin of Easter witches. There's still some debate about exactly when the tradition began, but scholars agree that it derives from Sweden's spate of witch trials that spanned from 1668 to 1678, as well as a robust folklore around witches that had already taken root as early as the 1400s. One of these ideas was that the belief that witches flew to a fictitious location called Mount Blackula to celebrate the Black Sabbath or Witches' Sabbath. In Mount Blackula, everything was upside down and backwards. Old people grew younger, and people danced with their backs turned against each other. Folk stories held that the chaos of Blackula blurred into our world during the period between Maundy Thursday and Holy Saturday. When Jesus was dead, it was believed that witches and other creatures were more active than at other times, Scott says. According to folklorist Per Anders Osling, Sweden's most famous witch trials began in 1668 after children spread rumors that they were taken by witches to Mount Blackula. Hundreds of women were accused and sentenced to death, and that fear of witches persisted well into the next century. Communities in southern Sweden held huge bonfires and shuttered their doors before Easter to protect themselves and their children from witches. Even though most scholars believe that the tradition of dressing up as Easter witches didn't begin until the early 20th century, after belief in witches warned in large cities. Scott's research suggests that the practice began right around this time in the 18th century. Scott points to the court records of Hurstby Parish in Uppland, Sweden, where a farmhand accused a young woman named Anna Olofsdotter of witchcraft on October 3, 1747. 1 year earlier, 3 children in her parish had discovered trollbottom, a slimy fungus associated with witches. They believed that by burning the trollbottom, the witch who owned it would reveal herself. According to the court records, Olofsdotter decided to play a joke on the children and farmhand, wearing an apron over her shoulders and draping her hair over her face. As the farmhand threw the fungus into the fire, She ran out screaming, "It burns, it burns." The farm tent began circulating rumors that Adolf Dattler was a witch, and she was brought to court on the charge of defamation. The court concluded she was not a witch. This ancient festival is a celebration of springtime and a brand new year. For the Northern Hemisphere, March 19 is the first day of spring. But for 300 million people around the world, it's the beginning of a new year too. Nowruz, which means new day, is a holiday marking the arrival of spring and the first day of the year in Iran, whose solar calendar begins with the vernal equinox. Nowruz has been celebrated in Iran and the Persian diaspora for more than 3,000 years. Its roots are as a feast day, a religion practiced in ancient Persia that viewed the arrival of spring as a victory over darkness. The holiday survived the Islamic conquest of Persia in the 7th century and the decline of Zoroastrian popularity, and it spread across the globe through diaspora of Persian people throughout history. Traditionally celebrated on the vernal equinox, many began preparations for Nowruz weeks in advance. In the lead up to the holiday, people perform ritual dances and fill vessels in their home with water, which is associated with health in an attempt to banish bad luck.